What's up, y'all? It's Ryan. And before we get into today's episode, I wanted to say thank you for taking your time to listen to yet another week of the Put It in the Group Chat podcast. This week, we get into pretty much everything that you could think of. We touch on John Wall being traded to the Houston Rockets. We also talk about the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalist list that just came out. The Steelers beating the Ravens to head to 11-0. Gerald talks a little bit about his Patriots and how he's having a little bit of a trust issue with them this season, and I truly can't blame him. But I'm gonna shut up and let you get to the episode. So, as I said before, thank you yet again for tuning in for another week of the Put in the Group Chat podcast, and I'll catch you in the first break. Peace. It is December 4th, 2020. We're about 27 days or about 4 weeks from the new year. This is episode 8 of the Put in the Group Chat podcast. I'm Ryan. I'm here with Gerald and James. And yeah, it's another week, another lot going on in sports. A lot going on just in the world. I guess I wanted to start here. I was watching ESPN, I want to say Tuesday, and there was a headline that said LSU makes history. And I was like, okay, what did LSU do? They get a top recruiting class? What's this, that, and so forth? And it was like, no, they have the largest point spread for a defending national champion. They are 29-point underdogs against Alabama.
Ooh.
And that got me thinking, like, what is – you don't have to make it personal, but, like, what is the worst blowout that you have either been a part of or witnessed?
I mean, statistically, it might not show it, but for me, the worst witness blowout of all time has got to be Super Bowl 40, I believe 48.
Why we got to bring up old stuff? Why we got to run?
I mean, okay, I'm just saying. Now, again, I'm a New England fan, so I can understand how this might feel like, resentment, but I'm just going to be real here. You can't give me no Hall of Fame type season and then get just bounced. Like from snap one, safety, that game was over the entire time. So that, for me, that was just the worst with the stage and how good he did until then. That's never going to go out of my mind.
That is a bad matchup, though. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs got a can of beat them down one time. I don't remember. I can't remember which one, but I feel like, I mean, there was a Ravens playoff game where they just got blown out after Jamal Charles scored a touchdown. But other than that, I don't really remember too many blowouts like that. Like the Chiefs have been bad, like real bad, but it's always been like I mean, maybe we just turn the TV off at that point. But I've been to some baseball games. Though I know people don't like baseball, but I've been to some baseball games where it's like, this is over after the first inning, like, and that sucks because you didn't pay to go to the baseball game. But but I don't know. no real big blowouts
I mean,
I've been a part of.
for me, they usually come back to youth football just because youth football is set up. Once you fall behind, you ain't coming back. Like there's no coming back, and like I remember, I want to say I was in my first year of football. We went 0-8, and
Mm.
we lost to us. There was a team, Watchung Hills, either Watchung Hills or Bridgewater Raritan. I don't remember. But they went to like the Disney Super Bowl that you see they show on I guess Christmas every year, the Pop Warner Super Bowl. They beat us. I want to say 72-0.
Oh.
Because like for whatever reason, like in youth baseball, they have like mercy rules, and football they didn't have that. I have no idea. I feel like it should have been there. Um,
There got to be some type of hell too, because they in youth football you ain't got no scoreboard. You can't even see the clock. You just running
we knew how much
until
we were down. Like there was no
yeah.
mistaking. We could have been 8. We knew what it was.
That's
Um,
what I'm saying. But you got to run until the ref call the game. Like you can't even see you know what I'm saying. You can't even see whether or not you can call the game or not.
but I remember the next year we went 8-1, and I remember we had a scrimmage. It wasn't even a real game. We won. I want to say they said it was 62-0, but I feel like we won by more. It was either that or like every year in high school we had our rival. So I went to a boarding school called Choate. If you've ever watched the show Power, that is the school that they sent Tyreek off to. I want to one of the second to last season of last season. But we play a school every year called Deerfield. That's our rival. We have Deerfield Day, and then we also have like what we call Deerfield Day Part Two, which is like Deerfield Day is when we play all of our fall sports. So from freshman soccer to varsity football, everything gets played on the same day. And like the whole school comes in, the opposing school comes in. It's this big thing. Deerfield Day Part Two is when we play the JV boys basketball team, and then the 2 varsity basketball teams play on the same night, back to back to back. And I remember we were being assholes because we won. I want to say each one of those games by 20 points, and we stormed the court after every game for no apparent reason. And the worst part about it was we were on the road. So we stormed somebody else's court and in a game we were supposed to win. So that for me probably tops it. But I felt bad. Like I thought they had canceled this game initially, but I guess they just rescheduled it. I feel bad for them players, man.
You go from being undefeated to it's tough.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, got some yeah. That's some type of disrespect there.
storming somebody else's court, I feel now looking back on that, it's kind of wild. But I kind of wanted to. We kind of talked about this before. I want to say yesterday. But I kind of wanted to do a little warm up. And get y'all's thoughts on something. I want to say this week the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinals came out. List came out. And there were a number of people on it. I believe Calvin Johnson's on it this year. It's starting to get into the years where I remember these guys playing, which is making me feel old slowly. But one of the people that was on it was Fred Taylor. He's the only running back on it. And Fred Taylor's been doing this podcast with Brandon Marshall, Channing Crowder, Chad Johnson, Terrell Owens is on an episode. And he's been very adamant about talking about himself as a Hall of Famer. And it's not something I thought about before because necessarily think about the NFL Hall of Fame just because it's so damn hard to get into. It's like whoever gets in, I'm happy for them. But if you don't, you don't. But I wanted to play y'all a clip of him pretty much talking about being in the Hall of Fame.
That's the wrong word.
Yeah.
That's the wrong word.
All y'all believe y'all should be in the Hall of Fame.
No.
I mean, I know what it
Hold on,
is.
T.O., so you're the only one sitting here right now in the Hall of Fame. I ain't up yet, okay? But you've been out 5 years.
I inducted myself.
And then like he feels some type of way about the committee.
Didn't I induct myself?
We've been through this.
No, I don't. Well, we've been
I
through
never
what?
said I was bitter. I don't
I know
think anybody
that was wrong.
knows me.
That was a wrong choice of words by me. But you
when
feel some
I
type
look
of
at
way.
when I look at the guys that are in there, at the point in which I retire, I retired 15th all time on the list. My numbers was better than 16 of the guys that was already currently in the Hall of Fame. What's the problem? Right. You look at the guys that are in the Hall of Fame from a defensive standpoint, Ray Lewis, Derrick Brooks. Look at Ed Reed, look at Champ Bailey. Look at all these other guys they're trying to put in the Hall of Fame that somehow make it to the finalist room. Look at John Lynch. These the same dudes that I murked every Sunday. Ooh. So what's the problem? I don't care. They can hear it. It's right here. They know what it is. Every Sunday.
See,
so what's the problem?
Come on, Fred. Here we go, man. We're on this show. Yeah.
For real. Okay. What's the problem?
A little bitter.
So I'm not bitter. It might be sweet, but it ain't bitter.
But I say that. I use the
me?
wrong words, but this. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. You felt like the process was wrong. You feel like the process is wrong. He feel like
we don't need validation from the
Christians. When it came to T.O., I think the process, he was first ballot was written all over the sheet.
I told you, listen,
you know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question. Before you say anything, who does the voting?
Media.
Answer the question.
Football writers.
Who does the voting?
The media, not the players.
Is it the people we played against?
No.
Is it the coaches that had to stop us on Sunday?
No.
Nah.
So who in the is validated the people doing the voting, actually voting who's allowed in the goddamn hall?
So what the
answer
question?
the question.
So are you a Hall of Famer? Should you be in the Hall of Fame?
Didn't I induct myself? Did I induct myself or not? Answer the question.
You did.
Answer the question.
Yes.
Wait. Don't say nothing. Let me finish. Damn it. Why did I induct myself? Because I don't want to play what?
No, why? Let me answer the question.
Because I don't want to play what?
Because it was a celebration.
Don't do that.
You inducted.
Don't do that. Because it starts with a P. I don't want to be
politics,
I don't want to
baby.
play. I don't want to play politics. If I wanted to, I would have been a politician, bitch. Okay?
So it wasn't for the cameras, it wasn't for ESPN,
No.
another celebration.
What did I tell you? When I caught that touchdown against the Ravens Monday or Sunday night, I had just crossed the 10,000 mark. And for me, I felt I was worthy of the Hall of Fame without having to play politics with the motherfuckers.
Hall of Famer, you in there, you in that committee. I don't know what y'all be doing.
No, I'm not in
Is
the
he
committee.
a Hall of Famer?
I think
Is he a Hall of Famer?
Why are you asking him?
Because he's in there.
I'm better than that, man.
There we go.
That's not even tape worthy. Don't even waste y'all tape on that conversation.
But that was pretty.
Okay, then.
There was a lot said there. I guess the question I wanted to ask y'all is not so much Fred Taylor is a Hall of Famer, because I think we all agree that's a very iffy case of putting him in the Hall of Fame. Like, if we gonna do that, but I did want to ask y'all, do y'all think it's too? Is there ever a point where it's too difficult to get into? I guess this would go for the NFL and then baseball, because I think basketball, you kind of can get in if you've had a decent career or you've contributed something to the career. But football and baseball is kind of a higher standard. Do y'all think it's ever going to get to a point where it's too difficult to get into the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so, but I understand where Fred Taylor's coming from. But the only problem I have with his statements are, I think sometimes we do this thing where, and this happens in basketball a whole bunch. It's like we elevate ourselves, or they elevate themselves based on what era they played in. It's like I heard the call out of John Lynch. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. Like, oh, no, I played against that dude, and, like, I was better than him on some Sundays. So maybe I should be in the Hall of Fame without understanding, like, it's the totality of your career. Which I get what he's saying. He's 15th all time on the list of total yards or rushing yards, and he's 17th now. So I kind of get where he understands where he thinks he's a Hall of Famer, and I think he should think he's a Hall of Famer. But sometimes we elevate ourselves like and elevate other dudes that we played or that they played against, and it's like, yeah, my era was the best because I was in it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of what's going on. And I understand the racial aspect of what he's saying, of what Ocho was saying, for sure. The media is largely white, and, sometimes it seems like you're getting validation from white people. But there are also black people who vote on the black media members that vote on the Hall of Fame. So, I don't think it's total. I think some of that is problematic, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, I get what Fred's saying. And honestly, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, NFL-wise, I think they've made enough of a door to where even if your numbers aren't the greatest, you still have a shot. Like Eli Manning, number-wise, is not the greatest quarterback of all time. But let's be honest, because of the Super Bowls, who he beat, and his name, there's a good shot he's getting in. I just feel like with the NFL, it's a lot easier than I think a lot of people are making it out to be. Like, if you have a decent case, there's a good shot you've got a chance. MLB is a bit different, though. MLB, one thing could mess up your entire career for MLB. Like, we've seen that with Barry Bonds and how long it's sort of taken him to get in. I think with football, it's a lot harder, but I think still having that sort of requirement of, okay, you have to be a certain level or we're evaluating on this is how you keep people like Julian Edelman from getting it.
Yeah, I also think this though. The people who are in the Hall of Fame that take the Hall of Fame very seriously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Carter, all them dudes that are in the Hall of Fame, they go to all the inductions, they do all the activities and stuff. They take it very seriously. And I think that is definitely something that shouldn't be taken lightly, even with Ocho saying, I inducted myself, we don't need validation. A lot of those people, they don't necessarily need the validation because I don't think so. But, they take it very seriously. So I think, yeah, I understand where Ocho's coming from, but I don't think that should be taken too much. You know what I'm saying? But also, is this is Fred Taylor's first time on the ballot?
I don't believe so. Let me look that up because I know he played 13 years, but I think he's been retired for a minute.
Okay. I don't. I should keep track more of some, but I mean, I remember, Shannon Sharp. I mean, it took him a long time to get in ballot. And he's the best. I think he's the best tight end of all time. Even though I'm a Chiefs fan, but
he retired in 2010, so he's probably been on it. I don't know if this is the first time he's been on the I think it's the first time he's been on the semi-finalist list.
Oh, okay then. That's fair. But now I just example, I heard somebody say the other day, I think Jim Nance said that Travis Kelce was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not going to do that. That's just what it is because certain positions, don't get in the Hall of Fame like that. But Travis Kelce should be a Hall of Famer. But, I think maybe it's not too hard, but it's hard to get on the first ballot. I will say that. But maybe it should be, So that's all I'm saying.
So my hard thing was going back to, I guess, the youth football stuff. For me, I grew up wanting to be a running back. And for me, the people I looked at growing up, I was a Terrell Davis fan. That's how I became a Broncos fan. But after that, I enjoyed Clinton Portis, but my favorite player probably in the league was Fred Taylor and then Maurice Jones-Drew. So like I love Fred Taylor as a football player. I just don't. It's not so much that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. It's just like I feel like there's a line, and he's on it, but there are people ahead of him. Like we talked, like
Yeah.
Sean Alexander should probably be in there if he's gonna get in there. Like there's some other guys I could think of that maybe the numbers aren't there, but like I watch them play, and it's a little bit different. Like I can understand. Like for like there's gonna be this discussion in a couple of years with Marshawn Lynch, and I know for a fact Marshawn Lynch probably doesn't care about getting in the Hall of Fame, but I saw that guy play. And I have a hard time naming too many running backs that had an impact on a single game or a moment or just the NFL. And I think that's one of the things that I do enjoy about the NBA more so than the NFL and the MLB. Because I think the NFL and the MLB, like you said, because they make it so hard for you to get in, you take it more seriously once you get in. For the NBA, it's a little bit easier. So I don't, like, it's still important. Like, you still want to get in the Hall of Fame, but I think it's not looked at in the same way. But one of the reasons why I like the NBA is because they do take impact into account, like your contributions. And I think that's where, say, if Marshawn Lynch was going through the NBA process, he'd probably get in because his impact on promoting the game, indirectly or directly, is undeniable, and how he brought people to the game and being a figure in that way, in addition to his play, because he was a really good running back for a good chunk of his career. But
You say that, and I agree with you to a certain degree, but Stephon Marbury is still outside of the Hall of Fame. Like, it's not all about impact sometimes. You know, there are dudes who are, like, obviously, like, better than some of these dudes that are not in the Hall of Fame. Like, you know what I'm saying?
that's where it becomes personal at a point. I do agree. It becomes personal. Like, before that clip, 'cause I watched the whole episode, and I was like, they asked Terrell Owens a couple of questions that I hadn't heard him answer before, or at least recently. Like he said he doesn't regret not going to the ceremony because he said he knew it was personal. He didn't want to share that moment with people that had made it very clear that they don't like him. And I think that's for the Stephon Marbury. Like, I don't want to say the whole NBA hates Stephon Marbury because that's not true, but there are definitely people that dislike him in large areas. So, like, Stephon Marbury is remembered in New York. I don't know if he's necessarily loved in New York. And that's wild considering all that he's done and how his family's still in the New York area. But he's not loved in that same way because there are certain personal things. And to Gerald's point about, like, Barry Bonds, and maybe it's because I saw him when I was younger, but he's still the best baseball player I've ever seen in my life. And
yeah.
I can't, and this is with or without steroids. Yes, steroids made him a better power hitter, but he's still Barry Bonds with or without steroids. And I think that's a weird case because I think the MLB has some fault in him why he took steroids. I'm not saying it wasn't a personal decision, but them not cracking down on it early enough, I think, was what led him to want to do it. In his competitive nature, and also if you've read any stories about Barry Bonds, he's not a very likable person. But
my problem with baseball, I mean, we don't have to get too off topic with this, but my problem with baseball is all the managers that were managing the dudes that took steroids in the Hall of Fame. But somehow the dudes who were actually needed the steroids to get this money ain't in the Hall of Fame. Like, Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, but, like, Tony La Russa is in the Hall of Fame, which I ain't got no problem with Tony La Russa. He's a Hall of Fame manager, but he was managing people who were doing steroids. This is what it was.
Isn't Bud Selig in all?
Bud Selig, though, but Bud Selig is what? Yeah, commissioner. Yeah, I think he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because he oversaw it.
He oversaw it, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, but yeah, I mean, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about who's in the Hall of Fame and who isn't is something that slowly grows into like get off my lawn type thing. Like we always talk about the people they played against, like, this dude was cold. It's like, yeah, but he wasn't a Hall of Famer. I don't, that type of thing. And that happens in basketball and football and everybody. Like, oh yeah. I'm trying to give an example. Like KG does this a lot, where he'll talk about like, somebody was cold. Like, we played with him or whatever, and they'd be like, was that dude cold, or was he just played with y'all? But sometimes people elevate stuff based on like their era and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's personal experience. Like I also think it's like partially they see these guys in a lot of different facets. So it could be in practice, it could be, and somebody could look great in practice and they could look like a wonderful player, and then we only get to see them on the court, and that's when it matters. So like they're probably going off it on like a whole different, just seeing them every day in what they do.
Right, for sure. But I just think Fred Taylor is definitely in his right, to think he's a Hall of Fame player. Like, I mean, I hope he would think so. But there's a lot of dudes who just on that line, like Donovan McNabb is probably not gonna get in. Like, I mean, but he was a problem. Okay, we just, we can't, deny that, but that type of thing.
All right. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I did think that was interesting, just because because NFL players and baseball players are so worried about offending the people that they're voting for, that are voting on their Hall of Fame eligibility. They don't want to speak out like that until after the fact. So I just thought that was cool. I also thought it was just it's funny hearing Chad Johnson talk about inducting himself into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's Chad.
That's Chad though.
But elsewhere in the NFL, I guess the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not sure if Josh Gordon's going to be with the Seattle Seahawks, but he was reinstated for another 2 weeks, for the last 2 weeks of the season. From a football, there's two standpoints. There's a football standpoint and a personal standpoint. I think the personal standpoint is just, we hope that he's well. I guess that's at this point. But at a football standpoint, we're starting to see this with Dez Bryant, and I think it's a little bit different because the Ravens need him. But we're starting to see Antonio Brown was out for a year, Dez Bryant was out, and they're all out for different reasons, but they were all kind of clustered together because they were really good together at the same point in time. I kind of want to ask you, like, do y'all think is it beneficial for teams to start bringing in, where we are with COVID, to start bringing in people that we wouldn't necessarily think about? And I know I'm not talking about Colin Kaepernick. That's over and done at this point. But like, should NFL teams, with the COVID problem that we're having right now, should they start looking to people that may be on the fringes, like a Johnny Manziel, like a Josh Gordon? Like, do we have to start looking at these guys? Like, I know Cardell Jones, shout out to Cardell Jones, like he's starting to get looks for an NFL roster that he probably wouldn't gotten looked at before. But do y'all think it's time that, with the way COVID is going, that we need to start looking towards outside people to start filling these rosters so we can get these games played?
I mean, honestly, you might as well pick up Kaepernick if you're thinking about Manziel. I mean, god dang, Manziel was not good when he was there. But I mean, obviously they're only really starting to get into this groove because it's around playoff time and the stuff you can't fix. You can't make a trade or any type of thing. So it's like, all right, what's the nice little Band-Aid we could slap on it? That was the Bucks fix for the injury problem. All right, Mike Evans is hurt. Godwin's missed half the games. Let's throw AB out here. It depends. And honestly, on the Josh Gordon thing, like I know as a person who had Josh Gordon on like one of his favorite teams, the Patriots, like I wish him nothing but the best. I also think the best for him isn't football. Like it seems like he kind of slips because of, everything that football brings with it. And I kind of wish he would have like rehabbed and gotten better and just like took a break from football for a little bit before coming back. Like maybe that's just me, but I feel like with Josh Gordon, a lot more of that could have just been avoided without him trying to go again. But again, I could be wrong on that one.
My only argument to that is like how else is he gonna make money? Because I understand like that, that type of thing. I mean, yeah, the pressures of football might get to him and help him relapse, but it's also like just because you're an addict doesn't mean you don't have a right to work. So that's what I've always hated about the Josh Gordon situation. People act like, just because the NFL makes a lot of money, he didn't have a right to work. And it was like, oh, that's what NFL is. It's a job, So that's how I feel about that one. But also, seeing outside people come in, I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of people are getting second chances that they wouldn't normally get, and I think that's good. Because I don't think Dez Bryant should have been outside the league for 3 years. I just think Dallas wasn't trying to pay him that money, which didn't make much sense to me. But, we try to put where people are, 3 years out, we're like, oh, well, yeah, he didn't deserve that money anyway. But, I mean, if he got the money when he was supposed to, he probably would have been a productive player. So that's how I feel about that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a tricky situation because, like I see both sides of what you and Gerald are saying because it's like, on one side, I don't know if football is the best thing for him because every time it seems like he gets back into the NFL, it feels like he slips. But I don't know if he's slipping because he's in the NFL or just because that's just the ups and downs of dealing with addiction. But at the same time, he has a right to work if he can maintain that addiction. So, like, for me, like, I want him around football. I don't know if playing football. Like, if he can get in, if they could put him in some kind of coaching program, something to just get him started in the groove of things, I think that would be best. But I also think the NFL is taking this relatively seriously. Like, in terms of how they've handled a lot of different players, I don't know if this is they've handled this probably better than they've handled a lot of different situations. So, like, I would say I hope he's good and I want him around football. I'm worried, man, because I trust the NFL, and I feel weird saying I trust the NFL on anything, but they've put him through the ringer in terms of having to get back onto the field. So I feel like if they're reinstating him, it's because he's worked his way back. But other than that, the NFL's been kind of, I mean, last week we saw the Chiefs win by $1 billion, or at least it felt like they won by $1 billion. They only won by 3, but it felt like they got blown out. Like they were blowing the Bucks out, which is furthers my agenda that the Bucks aren't going to make the playoffs, even though they probably will. But there's that. You got the Ravens and the Steelers. Mike Tomlin calling the Steelers a JV team, which I feel like a little bit far. But I also don't think they're the best team in the division. I mean, the conference. You also have the Raiders getting beat by $1 billion. So, like, what did y'all take from this week in terms of the NFL? Just like, also my Broncos played without a quarterback. I watched that for 4 quarters. What do y'all take from this week in the NFL?
Well, number one, I still have no idea what to feel about the Patriots. They are possibly the most inconsistent team in the league. Like, sometimes the defense good, sometimes it sucks, sometimes the offense good, sometimes it sucks. I'm not trying to predict a Patriot game ever for the rest of the season. Secondly, look, I know Carson Wentz is not the main problem. So let me get that out of the way when I make this diatribe. Would it kill y'all to give Jalen Hurts a drive? Like, I know he is statistically the worst QB in the league. I'm not asking for a game. Just give him one drive. He completes a 7-yard pass. You throw Wentz right back out there. He gets sacked. Like, give him something. Like, it's really getting ridiculous at this point because you can no longer say it's like, oh, well, we want to win our division. Wentz is the best shot. No, statistically, he's the worst shot. He leads the league in interceptions and fumbles. Like, there's no reason to keep throwing Wentz out there other than, okay, we need to make this paycheck look like it matters. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Tom Brady got 11 interceptions. I mean, he only has what does he have? 13 interceptions?
A lot.
That's not a whole bunch. I mean, it's more than you would want, but in this day and age, you're not gonna throw like 30 interceptions unless you're Jameis. So I mean, I think giving Jalen Hurts a shot, I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. I don't think Jalen Hurts is ready at that point. I mean, I understand you got to see what you have, but like Carson Wentz, if you're gonna trade Carson Wentz, then yeah, I guess. But is Jalen Hurts the answer? I don't think so. I mean, and I'm all for the black quarterback. I'm all for that. But I don't know what about Jalen Hurts suggests it's going to be any different. Carson Wentz just is asked to do a lot. It's funny how we understand that about Joe Burrow, but like Carson Wentz somehow is just bad. And it's like Carson Wentz is being asked to do a lot. Like Doug Peterson is not that creative. And I like Doug Peterson. I think, obviously he won a Super Bowl. I think that's what that is. But it's just one of those years, I think. And, I don't think you should make rash decisions off this year. It's a one-off. Like, I really feel that way about, like, the COVID season. So, I mean, I think you should be able to see what's going on. Maybe halfway through next year, you see what's going on. And, if his team was better, the record would be better. Like, Tom Brady has thrown 11 picks, like, but they're still 7-6, right? So it's like, I mean, it just depends. They haven't really drafted well. They passed on Justin Jefferson. A lot of that stuff is like organization-wise.
I mean, okay. I'll give you're right. Tom Brady has thrown 11 picks. And QBR-wise, I think he's slightly above Carson Wentz with 69 to Wentz's 58. But the problem that people are overlooking is, though, Tom Brady has thrown 28 touchdowns, fourth in the league. 3,300 yards, second in the league. Carson Wentz has thrown 16 touchdowns to his 15 interceptions. He's like one touchdown over. And the records, obviously, I think that's more team-wise, so I'm not going to bring that up. But I'm just like, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is the answer, and I'm not saying you have to start him the entirety of the season. But at least give him a shot, because statistically, can he really do worse than Wentz right now? Like, I don't think it's possible for you to put him in for a drive, and he just looks absolutely horrendous, just like Wentz. I think you'll at least see, yes, he's not that good, but if he's an improvement, you have to at least go with the better improvement.
But I have to say, though, like, at Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts was throwing to wide open people.
Yeah.
And Alabama.
Those Eagles receivers are not going to be wide open. That's just what it is. I'm not saying he should never get on the field. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if, I don't know. Maybe this should hush all the noise about Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, but I don't even think Carson Wentz is that bad. I'm gonna be real. I just think it's one of those years. You have a quarterback sometimes, especially a high level draft pick, has one of those years. Like Jared Goff, before Sean McVay got there just wasn't that great, So I don't know. If you're gonna give and people trying to tell me about the contract, it's like Jared Goff was getting that money, so I don't see why Carson Wentz wouldn't get that money too. Everybody from that draft class got paid, so I don't see why Carson Wentz wouldn't have gotten that money. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think when he got the money, he should have, like, coming off of an MVP caliber season, and then I think the season after that, he didn't have amazing stats, but when you looked at who he was around against and the fact that he still was able to get into the playoffs, like, I get it. I'm not denying that. I just feel like, we talked about Donovan McNabb earlier. They didn't hesitate to bench him in the same situation. Like, it's a little weird to me that they don't even, like, think, like, okay, let's at least, like, see for a drive what it looks like. Like, I'm not asking for a full game. Just, like, one solid drive, see how we go, move on from there. Like, I don't like that.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, it's a different coach. Yeah, so Andy Reid had Michael Vick. Andy Reid signed Michael Vick for a reason and was trying to look at ways to get Michael Vick on the field. So, as much as I like Andy and, I'm a fan of his or whatever, he kind of did Donovan McNabb kind of grimy a little bit. But also, he had Michael Vick. I'm not saying it's not similar. And I'm not saying like the Philadelphia fans or like Philadelphia, organization treated Donovan McNabb like the way they should have. But I will say this, like they had Michael Vick in backing up, and then Michael Vick ended up having like an MVP season. So it was like, okay, that's a little bit different. But I understand what you're saying with Carson Wentz and like how they treat him versus Donovan McNabb. It is a little bit different. I understand that, but I think they're a little bit different situations too.
Yeah, I get what both of y'all are saying. I just, in terms of Carson Wentz, I think it's I think both things can be true. I can say he's regressed, and also say that he's put in a really horrible situation. I just think we got our hopes up really high when we saw him start that season the way he did and the way he was playing, and I think that was the absolute best you're going to get from Carson Wentz, and that shouldn't be what we grade him on because that's just not fair to him, especially with this team. But also with Jalen Hurts, I'm all for black quarterbacks, which means I don't want to see him die behind that offensive line and not be able to pass to anybody. So I don't want to see him put in that situation. But they're kind of stuck with Carson Wentz because they gave him all of that money. It's going to be really difficult for them to move that contract. But then again, there's always NFL coaches around the league that are like, I can fix him. I can work with him. And in this case, I'd believe that because I'd believe somebody was going to take Josh Rosen and going to make him into a better quarterback, and that never happened. So I'm more than willing to believe that someone can do that with Carson Wentz. But I just feel at least they have a quarterback. I watched 4 quarters with a team that didn't have a quarterback, and I want my But as far as just going into college football, not too much happened again. We saw Northwestern lose, but I think most people expected that to happen at some point during the season. They're still a good football team. I don't want to take that away from them. I just don't think that they're top. I think they were 8th in the country last week. I don't think they were that good. As I said, I'm not going to talk about Cincinnati this week, but we will. There is something going on with Coastal Carolina. They were able to book a game with BYU because Liberty had some COVID outbreaks, which I guess we'll get into next. But I kind of feel like this isn't going to do what people think it's going to do for BYU if they beat Coastal Carolina, which I Personally, I don't think they are. They are a 10-point favorite. I don't think they're going to beat Coastal Carolina. Just because if I'm looking at it, Coastal Carolina is a lot better than people give them credit for. They beat a Louisiana team that is a lot better than people give it credit for because they beat that Iowa State team that is getting so much love in the college football rankings. But I think Coastal Carolina will win. But if BYU does win, I don't see them just working out. If for complete clarity, BYU's 13th in the college football ranking, Coastal Carolina's 18th. I just don't see what, even if they beat them by 50, is Coastal Carolina really what's going to boost your resume?
That's true. That makes sense. So what you're saying is I should hit that money line though.
We're not doing this again because last time we did this, I think it was Baylor in Texas.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
But I wouldn't go that far with it.
I'm getting that itch again. I ain't been betting in weeks, so.
Oh boy, about to get on them parlays once more.
I'm trying to get. Nah, I ain't doing no more parlays.
This week is going to be LSU. I don't know. I think LSU is going to lose that game. I don't see them losing by 30. I just don't. I don't see that happening.
Betting the number on LSU. Boy, that sounds like a good way to lose my money. Okay. Okay.
We saw LSU play Texas A&M last week. And I'm not going to use this time to rail against Texas A&M. But Texas A&M, either Texas A&M is not that good, which I believe to be true, or LSU is better than or they're getting better as the season goes on. One of those teams.
You must not remember and you're going to have to blank this out or whatever, the Roll Tide fuck you, okay? You must not remember that. That's a 30-point whooping coming to Ed Ogeron. That's I'm not betting on the number with LSU. I'm sorry.
But beyond that, the Night Commission, which I just learned what the Night Commission was earlier today. It's a commission, obviously, that works with college football programs around the country. And it's different university presidents, athletic directors, so on and so forth. They are pushing, or they are advising the FBS, so that's Division 1A, to split from the NCAA, which is something we've heard, like, eventually this is going to happen, but this is the first time a group that is respected in college sports is really pushing for this. And I feel like it's coming at a really weird time because they're operating right now with complete autonomy. The individual conferences are, because they really don't have to worry about the NCAA. They just answer directly to the College Football Playoff Committee. And I don't, other than if they're not going to pay players, I don't understand what the point of them disbanding from the NCAA is.
I mean, they're going to pay players if they ain't got to worry about NCAA violations. I mean, they're going to pay players. But, yeah, I mean, I can understand why they would want to do that because they wouldn't have to worry about violations and stuff like that. And it's not another person they have to, they wouldn't have to sanction themselves and stuff like that. But, I mean, if they're not intending to pay players in the open, I don't see why they would want to do that. But, maybe you wouldn't have to. Oh, but revenue sharing is based on schools, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on schools. Like, each school gets its fair share of money. I guess for me, the big thing that I'm worried about would be, and I know this is not for like the average fan, but like I'm more so worried about the smaller schools,
right,
and how they get by. And also, I'd be interested to see how this affects conference alignment, because certain BYU not about to be left out of this. I don't think Boise State's going to be left out of this. Some schools, some of the small schools are going to get chose, and they're going to end up being a part of these bigger conferences, which makes sense for football, which is the big money generator, but I don't want to watch Boise State basketball. That's just me. But, like, I'd be interested to see how this affects the product because they're already losing players as it is. And I'm not even sure, like, if I have to go – if I think the big thing that is missed in the conversation about what's happening to college sports, specifically with college basketball, is not necessarily – yes, they can get paid, but also it allows them to work full-time on basketball. And I don't know, like, even when you're in a college setting for college athletes, you still have to do a certain amount of work that is not necessarily pertaining to what your future career is, because that's what college is supposed to be for. It's supposed to be preparing you for your career and also the social aspect of it. And I think they're going to get the social aspect of it if they go to college. That's for sure. That should happen, and that for a lot of players that does happen. At least in the semesters where they're not playing. But I do think there's pros and cons of it, because it can turn into the wild, wild west where all these schools are just basically doing their own thing. And there's certain sports that we watch that we complain about that don't have bodies that oversee them. Number one is boxing. Boxing does not have a body that oversees it. And we completely complain about it all the time. If you just have a whole bunch of conferences deciding what they're going to do, I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea also. But that's just, I don't necessarily trust the Big Ten commissioner and the SEC commissioner and the ACC to work together, because that just means it's going to be a big pissing contest, and they're going to be fighting over who does what, who plays where, who's really the national championship, and so on and so forth. And I think ultimately we're going to get what we get now. It's just players are going to get paid, which I think is the best scenario. So,
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I think, I mean, I just think that, college football is a regional sport. So just being able to have a national champion is always going to be a problem, because, it's not really meant for that. There are like 100-something teams that play. But also, it's not going to be – if we just – I mean, they're answering to the football, but they've always been like that, though. It's either been the BCS or the Bowl Coalition or now the college football playoff. So, the NCAA doesn't give them a champion. So I understand where, this might cause some confusion, but there's always been confusion. So I don't see it being that much different, except for just being able to play players in ways that are, different than the NCAA. And this might force the NCAA to, be better about how they treat players and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, any way to get players more empowerment, I'm all for it. I just feel like, yeah, that's it. Any way to get more player empowerment, I'm cool with it. And honestly, college sports in general is just kind of, it's just tough to really campaign for them right now. It really is.
Going off of that, there's one thing I wanted to wrap up with, and it's like a point I wanted to kind of walk back. I'm more in line. Before, when we talked about it, when the season was about to start, we were talking about if players want to play, do we let them play? And initially I was like, yeah, if they want to play, let them go play at their own risk. But now, I don't know if y'all looked at the numbers on December 2nd. December 2nd was the worst day of the pandemic yet. And I don't know how long we can keep doing this, because one of the things that keep coming up with Ohio State, most notably, is, are they going to be able to play their games? I don't think Ohio State This is me as a Ohio State. I don't think they're getting into the playoff anymore. Not because I don't think they're one of the best 4 teams, but because I don't think they're going to be able to play in the Big Ten championship, because I have a strong feeling Michigan is going to flip them the middle finger next week and say, we're not playing and we're going to play 5 games. And ironically, we would play Wisconsin in that scenario. And Wisconsin would be ranked higher, or at least is ranked higher right now than Northwestern, who'd play in the Big Ten championship, which is weird enough. But going back to the point of the COVID, like on December 2nd, more than 2,800 people died, 195,000 people tested positive, and most importantly, more than 100,000 people were hospitalized for COVID-related illnesses. This is getting worse, and we're talking about it less. We're only talking about it in sports as if somebody tests positive. Before, we were talking about how do we do this safely, this, that, and the third, all the measures, this. Now we're just going full steam and not adapting to the fact that this is getting a whole lot worse. And I'm probably forgetting the professor's name at this point. But there's a professor at George Washington University that said, starting next week, we could start seeing, it could be a normal occurrence to see 3,000 people die each day. That is way up from where we were in March and April. And that doesn't even include the people that are going into the hospital. They think that they should be treated for COVID, but they really need to be treated for something else. And because they're being treated for COVID and not the other thing, they end up dying or getting injured as well. Those numbers are not even included. So I don't know how we finish this with the way that at the rate that we're going. Because I just don't, it's not safe, and they're not getting paid. And I understand they want to play, but hell, I want to go fly out to Jamaica. I want to celebrate my birthday. I had my birthday this past. You don't think I want to celebrate my birthday? I've seen my mom once this year. I've seen my brother once since February. Like, I understand they want to do all these different things, but I'm sure there are people that want to go to their graduation this year. They're not going to have a real graduation. Like, I feel really bad for the kids that ended their sophomore year and came back for their junior year of college, and their second half of college is completely wiped out. Like, there's kids that are not going to know what it's like to have a junior or senior year of college. I mean, high school either. Like, all those important moments that you remember having when you were 17, 18, or 21, 22, they're not going to have any of that. So, pardon me, but I don't think your football season is that important that it trumps somebody getting to walk across the stage and be the first in their family to get a diploma. I'm sorry, it doesn't. So, I understand it brings in money for the different schools, and that's important, but like, we got to start switching some stuff up, because this is, at the rate we're going, somebody gonna really, really get hurt by this. But that's all I had to say. I guess when we come back, we can talk about John Wall and James Harden.
What's up, y'all? Before we get to the next segment, I gotta do what I do every week for y'all, which is put you on to some of the dopest Black-owned brands out there. And this week, I want to put you onto a brand coming to you straight from Los Angeles, California. That's TYT and PYT Attire. So TYT Attire is your more men's or unisex clothing brand, and PYT Attire is more of your women's focused brand. They're brother and sister brands, if you will. So the reason I'll put you on to them is because they've got some of the dopest, unique t-shirts out there. Get you a Kobe and Nipsey t-shirt, a Marvel t-shirt, you name it, they've got it. And if you want to, get some bottoms, you can get some sweatpants, some joggers. You're working from home, it's getting cold outside, you got the heat turned on, you may got your blanket with you as you sit on the couch and do your work, or you're near your fireplace, but you still want to look somewhat presentable for those Zoom meetings. They've got some of the best streetwear and loungewear out there. So make sure that you hit up at TYT_ATTIRE ATTYRE, or you can go to PYT Attire, which is at PRETTYUNGTHYNG. And I said that as slow as possible so you can get all the letters in there, but we're also going to put it on our Twitter account. Yes, we have a Twitter account. I'll explain at the end. But for now, just focus on some NBA talk that we got for you in the next segment, because I'll be back a little bit later. Peace. And we are back. Wrapping up, just getting into some basketball. I guess the two big things that happened this week were Anthony Davis and LeBron James signing or re-signing with the Lakers, extending their stay there. But also one thing that I don't want to say came by surprise because it had been floated out there before, but just the timing of it. Russell Westbrook was traded to the Wizards for John Wall in a first-round pick. And my first question was, who the hell does this benefit? Like, who is getting better from this? I guess it's the Rockets because they're gonna lose James Harden at some point. And John Wall, I guess, is the best thing you can get. So I guess you want to build around him. But damn, if I'm trying to trade Russell Westbrook, I want to get Bradley Beal back. Like, but I guess what was your first reaction when you saw that Russell Westbrook was being traded to the Wizards for John Wall?
I mean, y'all already knew my initial reaction, which was, who in the heck does this help? My first reaction was, why did this happen? I don't think this helps anybody. After digesting it a little bit, though, this isn't horrible for Washington. It just kind of puts them in that place where it's like, okay, so they're not as good as like the top teams in the East, but they'll be in the playoffs. So I get the trade for Washington. I don't love it. They got somebody who can actually initiate offense, which is good because Bradley Beal was the only person who did that last year. But man, I don't know, because at first I thought it was just Houston wants to build around John Wall. Then reports came out that James Harden wanted this trade, and it just seems like James Harden is like trading point guards like it's new shoes. I don't know. I don't know.
To go to strip club with? Is that why he wanted it? Like, why would he want, does he, I'm sorry, James.
It's not always fun working with your friend. That's what happened. You know, it's kind of, sometimes it's hard working with your boy. And I think he found that out the hard way. But also, like, in terms of the trade, I feel like Washington came out a winner. I understand you want to get off that contract, and then you kind of got the same type of contract, because I think Russell's due $50 million at some point. I think that's right. But also, I think Russell Westbrook is definitely more healthy than John Wall. So that's pretty good. And also, I think Bradley Beal's game complements Russell Westbrook a lot, because Bradley Beal is a good outside shooter, creates some space, and so that's kind of where I'm looking at the trade as, like, maybe a win for Washington. And then we never know if I don't think he'll ever get back to 2017 form, just because I think the free throw numbers are down, and I don't know if that athleticism, if you could just go crazy all that time. But you know he's good for, 27 and 8 a night, even though that 8 is a little bit, interior passing. But, he's good for 27 to 8 a night, especially at this pace that the league is at. We're going to look at somebody like Russell Westbrook as somebody who can definitely be a number one option. And I think that's not something you can look at as John Wall, even if he was coming back 100%. Because John Wall isn't better than Bradley Beal at this point. And I think Russell Westbrook is. So Yeah, I think that was the only market for him once Charlotte got LaMelo Ball, and gave Gordon Hayward all that money. So that's kind of where what was gonna have to do. It's similar to the Chris Paul trade in terms of those are the only contracts that'll match up. So, yeah.
I'm just tired about hearing about workouts. Like, that's just it. Like, I know everybody talking about John Wall looks amazing in workouts. Ben Simmons shoots threes in workouts. Andre Drummond, I saw make threes in workouts. Workouts should not be the requirement to this player is going to come back better. I'm sorry. It
That's
really
how we
should.
got Hoodie Mello. That is how we got Hoodie Mello.
Yeah, Hoodie Melo though was cold. You know, it's hard to pass in that hoodie though. But Melo not doing much passing anyway. But you know, that's another thing. Like Melo shouldn't have been out the league, but you know, workouts definitely are short-sighted, and we have to be cognizant of that. But
I will say.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say. I will say. The one thing that I do think. Now that y'all put it there, I do think that in Washington it can work on a basketball front. In terms of, I think it's interesting to see. I don't know if y'all seen the different articles that have been written, the letter that John Wall wrote. John Wall's been out for 2 years at this point.
Right.
That city loves John Wall. Like coming in, I know Russell Westbrook had a special connection with Oklahoma City, but I hope he is ready to step into that because John Wall's connection with the Wizards wasn't great, but his connection with the city of Washington D.C. is. I don't think it gets enough light how much he's done for that city. Whether it be, I joke like me and my friends in college, we used to joke that he's the Rosebar president because we'd see him there all the time, and we never went together, but we'd all see him separately. But I remember he got flack. I think it was a year or two ago. Actually, it wasn't a year or two. It was a little bit while ago. He got a Wizards custom-made Rosebar jersey, and he was selling them. And it was like, oh, he's spending too much time off the court, this, that, and the third. But really, the benefits of the jersey, the profits from the jersey were going to breast cancer awareness research. His mother was suffering from breast cancer. Or it was him over the summer paying off rent during COVID for an entire apartment building. Or it was him a week ago, not even a month ago, when he knew he was trying to get out of DC, partnering up with my favorite restaurant in DC, Henry's Soul Food Kitchen, and giving around 1,000 free turkeys to people. Like John Wall, people have this perception, and y'all know because y'all have been there, y'all have lived there, so it's like people have this perception of outside of being in DC that it's all Capitol Hill, it's all politicians. When that could not be further from the truth. Like whether it's going to Rosebar, it's going to brunch, it's going to Cherry Blossoms, Zoo Lights, everything is a community in DC. And John Wall, and that is, like I said, just to put it bluntly, it's really, really big shoes to fill, and he did a lot of really good work in DC. And you could say what you want about him in terms of his basketball, but the person that was in DC, those are really, really big shoes to fill. And I don't know if anyone can ever, I don't say anyone can ever, but anyone in the near future is going to be able to fill those shoes.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to put that.
But outside of that, I said it before, like the Lakers. I don't want to talk about Bronny because let that boy do what he wants to do. If LeBron wants to sign a 2-year contract and he may play with LeBron, great. Leave him alone. Leave Sasha Obama alone. I don't want to see Sasha Obama TikToks on Twitter. Leave that little girl alone. I know I'm calling her a little girl, but she's really 19. But still, leave her alone. Like, leave these celebrity children alone. But
Yeah, that's one way to put that. But the celebrity children don't want to be left alone when it comes to that bank, though. So you can't have it both ways. You think Sasha or Malia or Bronny don't be pushing that? He'd be like, "Oh no, I'm LeBron's kid. What you think?"
I think more so LeBron's kid than the Obama children, because Sasha just be putting up TikToks. Like, she doesn't really do anything. Like, she's not making money off of being Obama. LeBron,
not yet.
I mean, they older than Bronny, and they haven't done it yet.
But I mean, Secret Service though still follow them around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's they got benefits to being these kids. So yeah, we should leave them alone and have them have basic respect. But if she want to get somewhere, she like, nah, I'm Obama's kid. What's up? She know what's up. So that's all I'm saying.
This is an aside before getting back on topic, but I always wondered what it would be like. Cause I saw, there were pictures a couple years ago of Malia with she was dating a guy at Harvard. I just always wondered what it's like to go home to Obama, not Obama the president, but Obama the dad.
Obama the man, yeah. Yeah, that's a little different. Cause
him and Michelle, like, I don't.
Nah, Obama like this masculine dude. Like, people trying to, like, we've been listening to Republicans talk about he's soft and he's soft on this, soft on that. Like, nah, bro. Like, Obama like traditional. Like, he, we talking about the dude who won't let it go with Michael Jordan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but that is neither here nor there. The reason I brought up Bronny is because LeBron signed a 2-year extension worth $86 million. Jesus Christ. And Anthony Davis, another clutch client, brought home a 5-year, $190 million contract. And that just means to me that Rich Paul's somewhere in Cabo on vacation, counting his money. But in terms of, I guess, like, am I wrong in considering, like, I guess, coming to the conclusion that LeBron's going to retire in Los Angeles?
It depends. If it goes south, like, there's nothing, he can ask for a trade. He can do whatever he wants, but I think he should, but if it, it depends on how Anthony Davis, I think he's going to give Anthony Davis the keys to the kingdom, really. What he was trying to do with Kyrie, but so yeah, I think he might retire in LA, and then we'll see, Anthony Davis take a bigger role on the court and off the court, stuff like that. Yeah, I think you might be right in him retiring to LA.
Yeah, nah. I mean, contract-wise, it looks like it's all but certain he's retiring in LA. But then again, a lot of people thought he was going to retire in Cleveland. Then Kyrie decided to bounce. So it's all going to depend on what the supporting cast and what management does from here on out to accommodate for LeBron and, of course, AD. I mean, really, the only Laker that I'm, like, curious moving forward on what the heck's going to happen to him is Kyle Kuzma, because, like, he was in a draft class where 3 of the other 4 people that put up 3,000 points in their career just got paid max money. Kuzma ain't getting max money in LA. So I'm curious on what happens with him.
And it's wild because he got off to such a great start. Like, there was all this talk about, Kyle Kuzma, like, those extra years at Washington State, they did him a good job. He's more mature. He's this, that, and third. That all died once LeBron got there. That all went down the drain. And I really I really hope he gets it together because I'm not sure if you saw. There was this thing on Twitter going around like, what NBA player do you expect to make the biggest jump? And LeBron retweeted it, and he said, Kyle
Kyle
Kuzma.
Kuzma.
And I was just like, oh, you on the clock now. You are on the clock. That wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't a vote of confidence. That is, you better get your shit together because if not, you will be on the first thing smoking out of here. You saw me. I sent all your friends out. I will send you too.
I mean, he
Yeah,
was doing that in the bubble. Like when he was talking about, oh, well, we need Kyle Kuzma to be a third option. Kyle Kuzma was like, wait, what?
it's Kyle Kuzma better reach out to Kevin Love, but no, I think Kyle Kuzma should make the jump. Is he going to be a 20 a game scorer again? No, I don't think so. But I think his 3-point percentage should go up, and we should see what's going on. It's a different team. He might get the ball a little bit more. It was crazy because they were having him play 5 at the beginning. Now he's going to have to play 3. Especially if LeBron's going to continue playing point guard. So that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. They have him playing the small 5, and then, the year before, Anthony Davis got there, and Anthony Davis likes playing the 4. So, him playing the 3 is going to be a little bit thing because you got to be a playmaker really to be playing the 3. And I don't know how much of a playmaker he is, but I can see him making the jump for sure.
I mean, but do you also think it might be like he needs to be sort of maybe not the guy, but have a bigger role on another team? Like Victor Oladipo is like the prime example of this. He was on the team with Westbrook. He was nowhere near the player he was when he was on Indiana. Like maybe it's just a situation where Kyle Kuzma can't really be the best self on the Lakers because of the talent they have.
I don't think so. I don't think his game is that of a number one option. I don't think so. I can understand. I think he would he would score more if he was on a team by himself, but I don't know how far that team would go. So I think we should just let it play out, and then they'll see if they extend him or something like that. Maybe give him a mid-level deal. But I don't think he's a max player quite yet, for sure. So we'll see. I'm not really worried too much about Kyle Kuzma. I just think, he'll progress. And the value for a second round pick, for that much, for what he's doing is really, he's the best player. He's better than Lonzo. So, I think that much. But to put him up there with Tatum and Ingram and them, it's a little bit different. You can't quite do that quite yet.
I think I think it's weird that we're putting this kind of pressure. I guess my last thought would be it's weird putting that kind of pressure on a guy on a team that we believe is probably the best on paper and should win a championship and not win it because of him and not lose it because of him. But yet it feels like he's on the clock, which is weird. But I guess you got to if they think they can get something for him, I guess you got to you either got to make it work or not make it work. But I guess that kind of closes that. I guess the last few things are just as we get into different smaller sports. NC State, a women's team, Lady Wolfpack, ranked number 8th in the country, ended South Carolina's 29-game winning streak. Last night they won by 11, I believe. Richmond, who's now in the top 25 on the men's side, beat on Kentucky, and I feel like Kentucky loses a game like this every year to a team, but I think this is a little bit different because Richmond's an A-10 school, so it's not like a 1AA school that they lost to, but they did lose at home. And then beyond that, Clarissa Shields I don't even know how many division champion. We've talked about her before previously, but she signed a deal, mixed martial arts deal with the Professional Fight League, which will give her some time to like grow into the sport. But there's also she could be participating in a $1 million tournament, so it could be some way for her to get some bread that she would not get in boxing.
But don't you got to win to do that?
You gotta win, but it's the different offshoots mixed martial arts league are not as competitive as the MMA, and there's a way that I could see her, like for her first fight, they're setting her up with a person that primarily, they're probably gonna set her up with somebody who likes to strike and doesn't want to do any ground type of game, which would just play into what she wants to do. Like she's also, I think she's 24. So she's got time. Like Holly Holm went into it later in life. Like there's Amanda Serrano goes back and forth. Like there's people that can set type of blueprint for her if she wants to go back. And if she wants to go back to boxing full time at 30, ain't nothing wrong with that either.
I'm gonna keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Holly Holm was cold though. Ooh. Holly Holm.
But also with Trey Wingo left ESPN last week, and then yesterday Dan Le Batard announced that he's leaving ESPN in January, which has kind of been thrown out there a couple times, but I guess it finally came. He'll be fine, obviously, whether he wants to do his own thing. But I do think it's kind of sad that he's leaving, and also Poppy, who's my favorite person on ESPN, watching Highly Questionable. To see him leaving is kind of sad. But they are keeping Highly Questionable. So I don't know if that will be the next stop for Bomani Jones or Mina Kimes or Katie Nolan. So one of them leading that show. I would probably be Bomani Jones because they haven't really found another place for him. And Katie Nolan has her own show, and so does Mina Kimes. But
right.
I forgot Katie even had a show. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Katie, she getting that bank. Don't play. Katie Nolan, what's she like $3 million a year or something like that? I think I saw that.
getting her bread.
But yeah, she getting that bread. Don't play.
But I guess the last thing, Errol Spence is coming back to the ring after a 14-month layoff. I'm not sure if y'all both saw the clip of his car accident. I thought about showing it, but I don't feel like that's something like we can picture it.
Right.
He crashed the car. He went like, I want to say 30 feet off the car, like out of the front windshield. Seriously injured. Thank God it wasn't anything permanent. But the reason I brought it up is, like, as I told y'all yesterday, for me, this is a story that I don't want to blame boxing again, but I'm sorry going to blame boxing. Is a story that should be promoted way more than it is, because what he's doing after that car accident is frankly amazing. And I don't even say this as a cliche, but win or lose, he won. Because to be able to get back into a boxing ring of all sports after what he went through, I can't imagine doing. Like, the only other comp we have for this is Vinny Pazienza, who you may know as the only judge who scored the fight for Roy Jones Jr. last week. But he had a serious car accident after winning, I think it was a junior middleweight title in the late 80s, and he had to wear a halo. And I know they don't really use halos like that anymore, but it's like a crown you wear over your head. They have to drill screws into your skull. It's this whole big thing, and they thought he may not be able to walk again. He not only walked again, but he also won a title after that. So, and he also fought Roy Jones Jr., which is part of the reason why he probably scored the fight for Roy Jones Jr., but that's the only comp we have to that. And if you want to see that, there's a movie on Netflix called Bleed for this that dramatizes that story. But he fought a lot of different people like Roberto Duran, Roger Mayweather Jr., so on and so forth. But I just feel like this should get more hype. He's gonna win the fight. That's another thing. He's gonna win the fight because Danny Garcia doesn't throw enough punches to win the fight. But shout out to Errol Spence. I guess going off of what we did last week, I'm not gonna ask y'all to pick games because I feel like that is kind of it's just not as fun. One thing I did want to ask y'all is, in terms of sportscasting, because I thought about this with Dan Le Batard, because Dan Le Batard is a very polarizing figure. I love Dan Le Batard, but I know there's people out there that don't like Dan Le Batard. Who is one person that when you see come onto the screen on a sportscast, or it could be a newscast, it could be any TV, like talk show format, that you just completely tune out, that you cannot watch?
You gonna get me in trouble, man. Nah, you already know. I wish you would have said something like, who are the commentators that we like? Because
I mean, we
I
can
fuck
do
with
that.
Gus Jackson. I fuck with Gus Johnson.
Edit it.
I fuck with Gus Johnson. Oh yeah, that dude cold. He cold in the booth, bro. Like, yeah. Down the sideline, oh yeah. I'll be like, oh, okay, this dude about to go. He about to go all the way. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. Let me try to see who else. I mean, I kind of fuck with Joey Tess, but like, I don't watch that much boxing. He be getting a little bit too hyped for me, but he be all right. Kevin Harlan is dope. You know, for sure.
I don't know why I thought you were gonna say Kevin Hart for a second.
I definitely thought you were gonna say.
Yeah, Kevin Hart in the booth. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nah. He dope too though. But yeah. Whatever. But that's kind of who I like. And then Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp dope. Uncle Shay Shay.
I appreciate. I really like the dynamic that Ryan Clark and Dominique Foxworth have.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching them together. Obviously, I think we all listen to Bomani. I think that he kind of does things from a different angle. I also enjoy. I may be biased Clinton Yates just because he was really nice to me when I met him. Also,
okay.
Like, man took me up the stairs to the undefeated office and took me around and introduced me to everybody. I was so excited.
Oh, that's nice.
That is nice, yeah. No slander.
Straight off the fact that he just saw me in the elevator, was like, there are not too many black people in this office that I don't know. So, but I appreciate him. Also, I really, maybe I'm biased because I'm a Yankees fan. I've always enjoyed Michael Kay.
What?
As an announcer?
Ain't he the dude that does the Yankees win at the end of them?
Yeah, he does.
Ain't that the dude? Bruh, that dude. Nah, we gonna stop you right there. Okay, time to wrap it up. I'm just messing with you.
And also, taking all the way around is Dan Le Batard. Dan Le Batard always kind of does. I don't think he gets enough credit as a journalist. The work that he does. Same thing with Michael Smith. That whole thing with his and hers popped off. It felt like because Jamel Hill was the one tweeting at the president and going through all of that, she got the priority of attention. Also, because she's a black woman, and the way black women are treated in media is not great, to say the least. So she went through a lot. But also, like, it felt like in the background, it didn't feel like Michael Smith got his flowers in the same way. Because when you go down Michael Smith's resume, there ain't too many people that are touching it, especially at the age that he's doing these things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He started covering the Patriots when he was like 23. Like that's wild to think that you get that kind of opportunity and then just take it from there. But yes, I guess that kind of wraps it up. Um, just ending here. I want to shout out if you take the time to put Sasha Obama TikToks on Twitter, you need to find a hobby. If you think that you know Ohio State's going to get in the playoff because Michigan is going to do the right thing and play them and get their asses kicked, I'm with you. Just don't think it's going to happen. And as always, if you left this podcast a smarter sports fan than when you started, you're welcome. I'm Ryan. I'm here with James and Gerald. And this is the Put in the Group Chat podcast. We'll see you again next week. Happy holidays. Stay safe. Wear your mask. And if you're in Georgia, remember to go register to vote. Peace out.
How you gonna tell people to register to vote after the election?
I was gonna say.
No, I'm saying for the
You said it. Did you say in Georgia?
Yeah, I said in Georgia.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, I only heard that one. Okay, I heard that.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan, and I want to thank you once again for listening to Put It in the Group Chat podcast. That is episode number 8. I do want to apologize for a little bit of the sound issues. If you heard like a little crackling sound when I spoke, we're still kind of getting used to recording, or at least I am in my new space and getting everything down pat. So I do apologize for that. We will have that, or I will have that fixed up for next week. But I do want to say, like I said before, thank you for just supporting us and just being there for us. Like I promised in the mid-break, I did want to share some good news with y'all. We do have a Twitter account that we will be rolling out tomorrow. So we'll start tweeting from there tomorrow. It will be the first letter of every word in the name of the podcast. So PIITGC pod. That's PIITGC pod. So put it in the group chat pod, or you can just search put in the group chat on Twitter. We'll be tweeting out clips. Tomorrow we'll also be rolling out some video on our YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that. We just got a lot of going on. You know, we're really just trying to push this podcast forward. So tell your friends about it, tell your family about it, tell your mom about it, anybody you can tell about it that loves sports and enjoys just having casual conversations about sports. Like we said, we're an responsible podcast about sports, and we just try to make you a little bit smarter as a sports fan, if we can do that. So thanks again, and we'll be back next week for episode 9. A lot's going on this week, so we'll have a lot to talk about. Peace, and have a great weekend.